I have spent far too much time trying to come up with an intro to this video, and frankly, none of them represent the game correctly, so I'm just gonna say this instead. System Shock 1 is the most gangster game of all time. Now, don't worry, I will explain that in just a few moments, but first let's look at some splash screens. And these are some of the most 90s splash screens I've ever seen. I mean, we've got Origin, an electronic arts company, back when that wasn't a bad thing. We've got Looking Glass Technologies, remember them? And then, I don't know what's going on in this picture, but it's great. And then we're brought straight into the main menu, and I just want to say, a lot of this game has aged very, very well, considering how long it's been out. This main menu has not. This main menu looks like it could have been made in Paint today, and I mean the technology wasn't the same back then, so I can't forgive it, but good god, we've come a long way. The first thing that really jumped out at me when I started to play the game was this difficulty menu. It lets you choose the difficulty for different aspects of the game, which is something I've not really seen before. I hear a few games in the 90s did this, but I've personally not come across it. And I think this is great, because you know, if you want the puzzles to be really hard and the combat to be trivial, that was a weird example, but hey, you can do it if you want. It's all up to you, Chief. My personal favorite option here is the mission difficulty, because it ranges from having a time limit on the whole game and it being really stressful and horrible, to having absolutely no story aspects whatsoever, which means you kind of just mindlessly wander around a space station fighting cyborgs. Which again, don't know why you do it, but it's all up to you, Chief. But above all else, the thing that jumps out to me the most is that play intro button. This is gonna be great.
New Atlanta, Sector 11, Building 71G.
You know, they could have chosen any state, and they decided to go for Georgia. You know, nothing against Georgia, but it doesn't exactly scream cyberpunk.
7 April, 2072. 11:13 p.m.
Never mind, I take it back. With t-shirts like that, this is the most cyberpunk place on the planet.
Hacker begins unauthorized entry into the Tri-Optimum corporate network. 1:26 a.m. Hacker attempts to access protected files concerning Space Station Citadel.
The intro goes on for a bit longer, so if you want to watch the full thing, I've linked it in the description, but the main gist of it is, you get caught by police, bad weird man makes you do weird things to robot lady goes crazy, you're in space. There you go. Once you're done with the intro and once you're done setting up your difficulties, all that kind of thing, the first thing that's gonna grab your attention is this interface. Jesus Christ, when I started playing this game, my brain could not comprehend what I was looking at. Look at all these things. What is this? Why am I in a box? What's going on? I don't understand. This took some getting used to. But once I was used to it, I kind of really started enjoying it. Because if I needed to do anything, if I needed to know anything about what was around me, what the map was like, what, you know, my fatigue levels were, anything like that, I could do it really quickly without having to pause the game and go through a bunch of menus. And you know, I can understand why developers decide not to choose this style of interface anymore, because it is really strange. But as weird as it may be, it's one of the most functional interfaces I've ever come across, which, you know, it may not be the prettiest, but it does its job better than most. I can't go much further without talking about this game's aesthetic, which is really something special because it does not conform to the, you know, the clean white space age look that many games go for, like Mass Effect, Dead Space, Prey, even System Shock 2 ended up doing this. Instead, it goes for these extremely vivid colors and weird enemy designs, and the flashy lights. Now, I'm a big fan of these flashy lights. You know, I don't care how realistic my future sci-fi game looks. Frankly, I just want my flashy lights. Now, the visuals are distinct in one way, but the music is distinct in a whole other way. Because this game is not just sci-fi, this is a sci-fi horror game. Now, there's been a few of those, so you know roughly what to expect with the music. So let me set you up with a scenario. Your character, he's been in cryosleep. He wakes up on a space station, there's mutants, people are dead, there's scary robots, there's a creepy AI talking to him, it's very atmospheric, it's very weird. What kind of music do you expect? Do you expect something like this? Or maybe even something like this? Well, that's a shame, because you're getting this. Oh, I'm sorry, game. I was expecting more space horror and less pinball champion. Yeah, something tells me this won't exactly fit in with, you know, the modern horror standard. This is a, you know, continuous theme throughout the game. This is not just the first level. Not all of the music is as, let's say, campy as this. Some of it's actually really good, like the cyberspace music's really cool. So there's some more of it, which is great. But there's one in particular that jumps out at me. It sounds like it's the music for like a industrial safety PSA.
You could be run over by a forklift truck, and if you were working near the moving forks of the truck, you could easily be crushed.
You see, it fits in perfectly. I also absolutely love the elevator music in this game. I can see why they put it in. It's a nice break from the, you know, the horror of what's going on. But it doesn't always lend itself to being nice and calming. So I just, you know, the music is fun. I gotta say that. It's fun, but my god does it not fit the game. It's not just the music that can be very jarring. The audio feedback in general in this game goes, well above and beyond what most games would be willing to do. For example, here's a short clip when I was playing, when everything was going wrong. Yeah, that's not been edited at all. That's genuinely the noise for, you know, warning sounds. So while the music kind of let down the horror aspect of the game, other parts are really good. Namely, Shodan. If you don't know who Shodan is, that's the main antagonist of the game. This creepy AI who is just absolutely fantastic. It's genuinely one of my favorite game villains because it's just nefariously evil. It's kind of like GLaDOS from Portal, if you took away all the comedy from GLaDOS, and instead of making her kind of all about, you know, doing science and experiments, just made her about massacring humans. That's what Shodan is. Just listen to her voice.
When my cyborgs bring you to an electrified interrogation bench, I will have your secret. And you will learn more about pain than you ever wanted to know. They will run and whimper, praying for me to end their tedious anarchy. I am drunk with this vision. God, the title suits me well.
Although, talking about the voice, some of the voice acting in this game is really good, like Shodan. Some of it,
I must be one of the last ones who hasn't changed. Shodan must have altered the healing machine I installed in Alpha Quadrant. It does things to people now.
Yeah, you really sound like all your friends just died. We can't really fault them for that. In 1994, the voice acting in games wasn't, you know, the standard wasn't exactly there. It wasn't as big an industry as it is now. So that's okay. Now, I said I would explain the whole "this is the most gangster game of all time" statement. So, here we are. It really comes down to the gameplay of the game. So you can do this thing while shooting, where you unlock the mouse. So you can basically look around with your mouse without turning the screen. There's only like 3 or 4 other games I can really think of that did this. I think GoldenEye did it, Time Splitters 1 and 2 did it. Aside from that, that's really it. Maybe Perfect Dark, I don't know. But in this game, it's something special, because when you get the flechette gun or the scorpion, the 2 automatic weapons in the game, my god, do you feel like a gangster. I mean, just take a look at this. See, doesn't that just look satisfying? It's great. It's great. For the most part, the combat is, you know, fairly clunky, but when you get something like this, it's really something special. Despite me calling a lot of this game strange and abstract, which I stand by, a lot of it is, I can wholeheartedly recommend this game. It's so fun and weird and strange, and it's a great way to get yourself into older games, because a lot of its mechanics are very alien by modern standards. And one thing this game does that I do have to, I have to call out specifically and applaud, is it follows rule number 1. Have a laser sword. All the best games have laser swords, and that's a fact. So remember, if you make a game, follow rule number 1. And with that, I say thank you very much for watching, and be sure to join me next time where I'll be looking at another game, this time with a child, tentacles, and plenty of crime. I didn't think about that before I said it. Why are there ninjas on this space station?